Okay, assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Farida. I'm one of the members of Girls Gone Hajj. We thank you for your attendance. This is our fifth Heart of Hajj series, and we will discuss well preparation. We have an esteemed guest here, and we will ask that he start us with Al-Fatiha, and then Hanifa will start with the introductions.
Yes.
The session is being recorded.
السلام عليكم والصلاة والسلام على الصادق الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Peace upon all of us and God's blessings. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us today, and thank you for Girls Gone Hajj for organizing this event and for inviting me to speak. It's always very important when people are going to Hajj before they go, as in the Quran, and God tells us that no soul knows where it will die. So it became customary prior to performing the Hajj that you want to organize all your affairs, to be careful, record any debts, handle any of your legal, financial affairs, attend to your inheritance, basically get yourself in order, because you don't know where you will die, and you want to make it easier for your family than to burden them with these important affairs. So again, thanks. I'm happy to proceed unless you have any introductions or anything that you need to clean up any business before we start.
Yes, thank you, brother. So I just wanted to welcome everybody, and also just tell everybody a little bit about ourselves. We are Girls Going Hajj. Our mission is basically to create an increased awareness of the obligation of Muslims to perform Hajj ASAP. We are childhood friends from Newark and East Orange, New Jersey, and we were blessed to make Hajj together in 2009, and a Hajj-inspired t-shirt line was born from that bond. It was our collective idea that originated when we accepted the responsibility of hosting events for Muslims fulfilling their Hajj rights. And in 2020, we revived our t-shirt brand, incorporating additional designs and merchandise. So now that you know a little bit about us, we're going to introduce our prolific guest, Sultana.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
So Brother Abed Awad is the founder of ShariaWiz. He is a Muslim American Islamic law expert and an AV-rated practicing attorney. Now, AV-rated means that is the highest professional and ethical standard of a lawyer. So, alhamdulillah. Brother Abed has been teaching at Rutgers Law School for the past 15 years and has taught at Pace Law School and Seton Hall Law School right here in New Jersey, right? A fellow of the International Academy of Family Lawyers, IAFL. Brother Abed was a contributor and the U.S. editor for several years on the ShariaSource.com, a Harvard Law School Islamic legal studies project. So over 2 decades of studying and teaching and lecturing throughout the country on Islamic law, as well as during his 20 years experiencing practicing law, he noticed that many American Muslims were opting out of creating Islamic estate plans due to misunderstanding of the requirements of Sharia. So Brother Abed, he leveraged his legal expertise and native fluency in Arabic with extensive knowledge of Islamic law to find Sharia compliant estate planning solution. So, alhamdulillah, we are pleased to have him as our guest today. Welcome, Brother Aved. And so we're going to start off the questions. So, Brother, tell us, we did a brief introduction, but tell us a little bit more about ShariaWiz and how it got started, and explain to us, what this online portal has to offer.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. And thank you for all you girls putting this together. I always say that the Muslim American community, the leadership in this community, it's Muslim American women. I think us Muslim men are bankrupt. We haven't been able to keep up and represent our community, and we need the women to lead. So if you look around and you look at the names, they're all going to be, Muslim national names that are leadership of our community. They're all Muslim women. So it's not a surprise that you sisters put together this project, and you're moving forward to raise awareness on the importance of Hajj in our community. Now, as it pertains to ShariaWiz, there is a misconception in our community that everything about Islam and Islamic law and the Sharia is kind of like black and white. And they forget or they do not understand the sophistication of the Sharia. The Sharia, by its nature, is considered a methodology that produces knowledge. It's the epistemological system of Islam. So this system, based on the unique social, economic, cultural, political circumstances, produces knowledge to address issues that arise. That's why Muslim scholars used to define fiqh as the science of difference, because diversity is not only permitted under Islamic law, it's actually celebrated. And it's considered kind of the mercy of the tradition. Unlike the Catholic Church, unlike many other religious traditions that have an institutional religious body that determines what the law is, Islamic law doesn't have a church. It allowed the diversity of the scholars to address unique circumstances and factual situations. So for this reason, we at ShariaWiz take the Sharia as a methodology, as an epistemology that produces moral knowledge. With that system, we look at the circumstances in the United States, the structures of the economics, gender. Muslim women now are highly educated. Many of them make more money than their husbands. They work. Brothers in the extended family is dead. In the Muslim tradition is you have an extended family. An extended family is like almost a tribe. It's your cousins, your second, your third cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your nephews, your brothers and sisters. It's a huge extended family. That extended family was the financial and social safety net. But with the advent of modernity, we don't care about extended family. Now we're just focused on the nuclear family. I'm married and I have my kids and maybe my parents, and we call it a day. So the society in the US for us Muslims, it's not like what it was in the pre-modern times. The economics, the mode of production, all of these things have changed. The Sharia is able to adapt to these changes because the Sharia produces knowledge based on those circumstances. So we look at the issue of inheritance and wife's and spousal rights, and we say, okay, under the Sharia, I have a client who comes in and he says, I want to have a will and I want it to be Sharia compliant. No problem, sir. Your wife is going to receive 1/8 of the estate. Well, the wife says, well, hold on. I've been 20 years putting up with this guy. I put my money in this relationship. I left my career to raise the kids. I work. I pulled our money. I don't think it's fair. It doesn't make any sense to me because the Sharia has to be just. True. The Quran says that if there are children, a wife is going to receive 1/8. But what most of our community miss is because the Sharia has a lot of flexibility, we at ShariaWiz created a lot of solutions for Muslim women. For example, the mahr. We all know that the mahr, that the husband provides a wife a mahr. Maybe when you got married, you were 21 and he was 24 and you didn't have any money, and his mahr was $1,000. Now he's a practicing physician or he's running his own business and he's doing very well 20 years later. So what the husband can, as long as it's voluntary, without pressure, he can increase his mahr. He can increase it to 100,000. He can increase it to 200,000. I increased my mahr to my wife to be the marital residence. That's fair and that's legitimate. It wasn't undue pressure or coercion. I did that voluntarily because under Islamic law, the mahr is considered a debt against your estate. So the wife will receive her 1/8 of the estate, but she also gets her mahr first. First mahr, then the 1/8. We just solved the problem that everybody says that Islamic law is not fair to spouses. Very simple, and it's accepted within the tradition. Another another solution is many believe, scholars, that the Islamic marriage contract requires the husband to provide food, shelter, and clothing. And some schools say a domestic servant, that she's not responsible for cooking, cleaning, and doing all these other things. She's to give you companionship and bear the children. Everything else that she does, you have to provide for her. Now, if your wife has been providing you with all these services without compensation, and you believe that under Islamic law you had this obligation, you could say, you know what? I want to acknowledge the moral and religious debt I owe my wife for those services. 100,000, 50,000, the house, whatever. That's a debt. And a debt gets paid from the estate first, plus she receives her 1/8 inheritance. Same thing. The scholars said, hold on. A woman came to Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar ibn al-Khattab, and she was a very famous seamstress in Mecca. She would sew and make all these dresses all night, and her husband would take them to the souk and he would sell them. They had no kids. He died. Under the Sharia, she will receive 1/4 of the estate, 3/4 would go to his siblings. So she went to Umar ibn al-Khattab and said, I don't think that makes any sense. It's not fair. You know who I am, Amir al-Mu'mineen. I'm the girl that worked all night and made all these dresses. He says, yeah, I know who you are. You get half for your work and you get 1/4 for your inheritance, and the siblings get 1/4. So he flipped the formula. And this became a cause of action in West Africa and in the Maliki school called al-Kad was-Si'aya. Literally means pursuing, working hard and giving effort. And they said that a woman who contributes, works on the farm, works in the business, contributes her money, she creates a legal and equitable claim to the assets acquired during the marriage. And it's supposed to be distributed. So we include that also as an option for Muslim Americans on ShariaWiz, that you can use that and acknowledge what your wife had contributed, and that will be paid as a debt, plus you receive the 1/8. The other option is that Islamic law permits you to give what's called a life estate. So you could say, we're living in a marital residence. I want my wife to be able to live in it until she dies. That's legitimate, and you're able to do that in your will. So this is just giving you an example how complex and sophisticated and flexible the Sharia is. The Sharia is way more flexible than a Western-based legal system. The Western-based legal system only believes in one black and white position of the law. The Sharia believes in the diversity of the law. So we have taken this pre-modern system and trying to reconnect with its nuances and its sophistication and flexibility to provide answers for the American Muslim community. So that's kind of like the sum and substance of what ShariaWiz is all about. And I'm going to show you right now how it all works. Once you tell me any other questions that you have, we can do an illustration and go through the process, and you'll see the questions and answers, how easy we have made preparing your Islamic will. Literally 15, 20 minutes, you will have your will completed. All you need to do is get your 2 witnesses and sign it, and you're done.
So we want to go ahead and go through the demonstration, and then we'll come back to other
Sure.
questions.
So here you go to the website, you got to sign up, you create an account, you pick if you want a trust-based estate plan or a will-based.
So, Brother Abed, are you sharing your screen that you're working on?
Oh, I thought I was.
Okay.
So if you're not seeing it, that means that I have to come back and make sure. Now I can't find you. So you're not seeing my screen.
We were seeing it before, but we're not seeing it now.
Oh,
Always technical difficulties. Okay, now I'm trying to find, let me see.
So at the bottom, there's a share screen.
Yeah, I can't get into the window of the Zoom. So that's what, oh, found it. That's what it is. All right, now tell me if you see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Do you still see it?
Yes.
Well, no.
Yes.
Well,
it popped out.
Popped out? So you don't see it anymore?
Not right
No.
now. You were in it just a second ago.
Okay. You know what's
Okay,
happening?
we see
It's
it.
giving me a whiteboard, and that's not what I want. So let me.
When you click on the share the screen, don't click on the whiteboard, click on the screen that you want to share, and
Yes,
then click share.
I figured it out now.
There we go.
But after the 3rd try, I figured it out.
that's okay. It's sooner.
Yeah, I know. I'm still grappling with this. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So here's the website. You got to set up an account. And once you set up an account, you pick whether you want a will-based estate plan or trust-based estate plan. Basically, a will-based is a will, healthcare directive, and a general power of attorney. A trust, it's a living revocable trust, plus an Islamic will, plus a healthcare directive, and a general power of attorney. So most people, I mean, unless you have certain assets, I mean, there are good reasons to have a trust because you avoid probate and you transfer the assets to your beneficiaries in a very smooth manner, as opposed to having to go to court. But it takes a lot more management because you got to create the trust and then you have to transfer the assets into the name of the trust. So a lot of people, most people, a will-based estate plan is sufficient, but trusts are very, very important depending on the circumstances. So let's do what is most popular, which is a will. The will is $199. You do not pay anything until you review your will and you decide you want to proceed, and we'll see how it is. So you pick your gender, state of residence. We're all from Jersey, so we'll do Jersey. enter your name. How did you hear about us? And now we start. Are you married? Yes. Is your spouse Muslim? If you said your spouse was not Muslim, there's going to be different questions because a non-Muslim spouse does not inherit automatically. That doesn't mean that you don't leave her a bequest. You could leave her a bequest, but she will not be in the calculations. So I'm going to say yes. Do you have children? Say yes. Now it's going to ask you if any of them are children outside of marriage, adopted, stepchildren, or non-Muslim, because those are not automatic inheritors. That doesn't mean they don't inherit. It just means that you have to formally leave them something in your will. It doesn't mean that they're not entitled to it. But from the calculations, they would not inherit. You know, let's do this. Let's go back. I'm going to say that I have non-Muslim kids so that you could at least see how it works. Now you get to pick which madhab you want. You could do the majority, or you can pick one of them. Put your spouse's name. And your date of marriage. Is your father alive? If you said your father wasn't alive, it will ask you about your grandfather. So I'll show you. Let's say Ahmed. Now we go, it's going to ask you about your mother. If you said mother's not alive, it's going to ask you about your grandmother. So we have programmed and written the software for the Islamic inheritance calculator. We have thousands of lines of code. We have taken the most complicated inheritance scenarios. Everything is programmed. Something that would take scholars hours to figure out is done in like 5 seconds, just answering a couple of questions. So we'll say we have living grandmothers. Is your maternal living grandmother? I'm going to say yes. And her name is Grandma. And now my paternal, and I'm going to say Grandma too. Do you have any sons? Put their name, their birthday. And here's where it's going to ask you, is he Muslim or not? So you would pick one of those. Non-Muslim, adopted, stepchildren, out of marriage. Because if you had answered that question that you may have, let's put now a daughter, and we're going to make her non-Muslim. So you will see what will happen. Now you get to see the inheritance distribution. So the father receives his 1/6, the wife receives her 1/8, the grandma receives her 1/6, and the son is going to receive the balance, and the paternal grandmother is blocked by father. So, and that's blocked by father based on, you could now see the explanations. It will tell you the rule and the Quranic. So the father receives his prescribed share, and what's the authority? Here's the Quran. So every explanation has the authority and so forth. Now we go continue to will. So we finished the family tree. Now we're going to go into Huquq Allah. Do you have any zakat that you didn't pay? Do you want anyone to perform the Hajj on your behalf? You're the girls gone Hajj. Because we know a lot of people don't have the financial ability now, or their health, or they just didn't get a chance and they passed away. So they're saying, you know what, son, go perform the Hajj on my behalf. So if you would say yes, who do you want to perform Hajj for you? And how much money you're going to leave him to do that? Do you have any vow that you failed to fulfill? Like you said, if I am healed from this COVID, I promise I'm going to feed 1,000 poor people. Okay, you want to put that in your will to make sure that you end up doing it. Any kafarat, missing fasting and things. Okay, now we get into the religious obligations to a spouse. Now, I'm filling this will as a male. If I filled this will, if I completed it as a female, these questions won't appear because it only applies to a husband. So here it explains to you these options that I had discussed earlier in the beginning of our presentation. So do you want to give her a life estate? Do you want to increase her mahar? Money. 1 million. Do you want to acknowledge a more religious debt for the financial and non-financial? If you have any questions, you could go to the question mark and you could read an entire explanation relating to this issue. Now we talk about debts to family and friends. In our community, most of us, we have cousins, relatives, friends that we ask. The Muslim community is very charitable and very close-knit. We always lend each other money. My brother lent me money, my cousin, my uncle. I wanted to open my store on Main Street. They helped me out and they give you cash. You never record it. You don't have a promissory note because it's family. So you got to write that down. If you had any debt, you write it down. Now we go to section on bequests. Do you want to leave a bequest to anyone? You know, this family member can be your friend, it could be your relatives, your non-Muslim child. Charitable bequests, which is very important to us, that we're permitted under Islamic law to give up to 1/3 of our estate to charitable causes. We have a relationship with Islamic Relief so that we always ask this question, but you're not obligated, of course. So once you say no or you say yes, you will always be asked if you want to leave a bequest to another charity. So now we finished everything. Now we're going to come to the estate management piece. If any of you kids are minors, who do you want to be your executor? You know, my brother, my sister, my uncle, my lawyer, my accountant, whoever you want, whoever you trust to be your executor. Who's the alternate? Do you have any minor children? Who do you want to appoint? You're going to Hajj and you left your 2 kids behind. God forbid something happens to you. You don't want the court making the decision on who's going to be the guardian of your children. Pick now. Select now. If your beneficiaries are minors, what age do you want them to get their money? Age of majority, or you want to enter a specific age? Come to burial, which is very important. You have these options on autopsy, only if required by law, if required, or let my family decide, or I just don't consent. Where do you want to be buried? If you have a specific place, you have a burial place in New Jersey, you know, you put that, or you want your family or your executor to make that decision. Now we give you voice to your will. Here's your final wishes and instructions. And here you will be able to say, yes, I want to leave final instructions. And you'll say, you know, son, make sure you go visit mom. You know, son, make sure you don't forget your second cousin. She's struggling, you know, help her out. Keep your salah, you know, make a sadaqah. You give the voice of your will here. So this is not just a template. It becomes your custom tailored document. and you're done. So now what happens? You're going to be, there's going to be a preview of your document. So this is your will. You sit down, take your time, you read it. See, at the time of executing his will, I was married. Here's her name. Here's the 2 children. One is Muslim, one is non-Muslim. Here's all my burial. Here's my huquq Allah, the Hajj, leaving the $1 million mahar to my wife. And here are the takers, the percentages of everybody who is receiving a share. My estate management. So you review it. You like it, you pay for it. You look at it and say, you know what? I like this, but I think I changed my mind. I think I want to give more. So you click edit. On the right, you will see all of the sections of your will. So if you click on Huquq Allah, it's taking you back to that section. You finish answering that section. And you get to review to make sure there is nothing, because we made one edit, we end up going through the process. And now it will generate the revised document. And we get to review it again. Now, once we are done, and we will go to checkout, and we have to enter so once you pay, you are now able to go back to your dashboard. In your dashboard, this is what you will have. You have your Islamic will. You have the elective share waiver, because in New Jersey, a wife is entitled potentially up to 1/3 of the estate. You cannot disinherit your wife under American law. So if your Islamic inheritance share is less than your elective share, a wife can contest. So what we do is, to make it valid, we have a waiver of that document that's signed by wife and husband. Both husband is waiving his rights under state law, and wife is waiving her rights under state law. And that's why these Sharia compliant solutions available, like increasing your mahar and acknowledging the debt, makes this situation way more equitable and more likely to be enforceable in a state court, that there's no dispute about, families fighting about the inheritance. You also receive the Islamic Inheritance Appendix. It is a detailed manual of the Islamic law of inheritance. It tells the will tells the executor, if my survivors are different when I pass away compared to the date I signed it, here's the Islamic inheritance rules that are attached. Please recalculate everything to comply with Islamic law. Here, these 3 documents are not complete yet because we didn't complete them, but you get them for free. The Healthcare Directive, which is a Sharia compliant living will about terminal illness, about do not resuscitate orders, about organ donations, a HIPAA authorization, and a general power of attorney. All of these documents are now in your dashboard. You can come back, you could still edit your document as many times as you want. When you're finished, you could invite, say, your imam or your brother or somebody that matters to you. You simply click on this, put their email, they will get access to your PDF document so they could review it with you. When you're done, you just click download. And you will receive detailed instructions on how to validate your will, how to keep it, and this is your will. And then you have all of the signature pages for the notary and the self-proving stuff. Everything is there. So as you can see, it's very, very simple. And we worked really hard to make it simple, so to allow Muslims to have this flexibility that you could come back in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. Maybe you weren't married, now you're married, you can update your will. Maybe you were married, now you're divorced, you update your will. You just log into your dashboard, you don't have to pay any additional money, make those updates, print it, bring 2 witnesses, and you're good to go. So again, we're making this presentation for information and for educational purposes. I am a lawyer. I'm a lawyer in the state of New York and the state of New Jersey, but I'm not anybody's lawyer on this call or any attendees. So, this is not creating any attorney-client relationship. This is trying to assist our community. Lawyer-created forms, everything is state-specific to make life easy. You don't have to go spend $1,500 for a lawyer, try to find time to get appointments. Just go at your convenience and you're good to go. So I think this should do it from my end, and I can answer any questions.
Awesome. This was very, very good information, and there should be no excuse, right, for anyone not to be able to create a will. One of the questions we had was, who should have a will? In our community, I don't think that's something that's talked about a lot. And in certain professions, I know in my profession, I come across it a lot when people pass away and there isn't a will, what to do with the assets. So who should have a will?
Everybody should have a will, especially, if you're married, you should have a will. If you have kids, you should have a will. If you purchase property, you should have a will. Even people without much assets, you should have a will for a variety of reasons. Because if you didn't have much money, number one, you're going to make it so costly for your family. You may have a bank account and your wife's name's not on it, or you're not married. Once you die without a will, that bank account now is frozen. You got to go to court, you got to get letters, you got to get appointed to be able to open the account. You have a car in your name. You can't even sell the car because it's not in your name. I know he's my cousin. I know he's my brother, but there's no will. So all of this puts so much burden on the people we leave behind, having to go to court to try to figure all this stuff out. So I think anybody who has kids, has a home, is married, who travels overseas, who goes to Hajj, should have a basic, simple will like that, what we provide.
Brother,
This is so extensive. I'm just looking at the amount of time that it took to go into this. It's just so extensive. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Where should a will be kept after we've done? Should it be printed?
Yeah, well, first, you got to print it and you got to sign it before 2 witnesses, and preferably notarize it so it'll be a self-proving will, makes it easier to probate. Usually you want to keep it somewhere accessible So I think about it. If you take your will and you put it in your safe box at the bank and you're dead, who's getting access to the safe box? You know, so you probably want to put it somewhere home and you let your family know about it. You let your spouse, you let your brother, you let your accountant, your lawyer say, I'm keeping it. It's in the drawer. You know, it's in a, you know, a fireproof little box at home or at the office. That's the best place to keep it. But you want it accessible so people can find it.
And is it, should there be copies of your will? You know, we've heard of people passing out copies to people and then, you know.
Well, the only thing that could be probated is the original.
Got it.
So you really just need an original. Now, having too many copies can complicate the situation because people can start doctoring those copies and then and then trying to create an issue that the will is not valid. But if you don't have an original and a copy is available, there are very strict rules that you can probate a copy of a will, but it's a lot of work and it doesn't, you don't succeed all the time.
So does that mean when you sign it, you should sign it in blue ink?
Well, I mean, whether in blue or black, because now it's going to show as an original and you're going to get it notarized. So you should be in good shape. And then if it's an original, you're going to see the indentation on the paper.
Got it.
Yes.
Can you unshare your screen so we can get everyone else on the screen? And then I think that we can, since you talked about, I was going to ask what other important documents may help protect us and our families, but you talked about a power of attorney and a living will and an advance directive.
Yes.
All incorporated and encapsulated into this particular program. So we want to unmute anyone and open it up for questions in our audience. I saw a question from Sister Iola Corbett that says, how expensive is a trust?
The will is $199. An individual trust is $499, and a family waqf is $799. So at ShariaWiz, we launched the first ever online family waqf. So many families would like to keep the marital estate intact until both pass away. So the family waqf that's $799 allows you and your wife to create a joint trust, a joint waqf. You pool your money, your assets in it, and everything stays in the waqf. When one passes away, nothing changes, it stays. And then when the second passes away, that's when it gets distributed to the party's Islamic heirs. So the trust, it's still very competitive at $499 that you can create, because you don't only get the trust, you get the trust, you get what's called a pour-over will, which is an Islamic will that says, I intended all my assets to be in the trust. If I didn't transfer anything, when I die, I'm asking you, judge, to put it in my trust. So you'll end up going to court for the particular pieces of property that were not legally and properly transferred to your trust. And you get the living will, and you get also the power of attorney.
Got it. If anyone in the audience wants to unmute themselves and ask questions or put your questions in the chat, you can do so now.
And thank you for that. I'm glad you brought up the walk. We just had a presentation from Brother Junaid Dean from Yakin, and he did this presentation on walk. And it is definitely something I think that we all need to explore, like community-wise and family-wise. But I'm glad you brought that up. So
oh yeah, I create a lot of waqfs for mosques and family foundations. We do that in our private practice. And on ShariaWiz, you're able to create the waqf only for a for purposes of a limited, because there are two types of waqfs. There's a waqf al-khayri, public, and then there's the waqf al-ahli, which is the family waqf. What we provide on ShariaWiz is the only family waqf available. You can create a family waqf now online.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we just went over the kind of the community walk. So, okay, that's good to know that there's a family walk. All right.
And the family walk, the way it would work, it would be, I'm putting this for me and my wife and kids. So the walk survives until both of us die. After both of us die, then it's terminated and all the kids get paid. Now, in private practice, we're able to create it and say, I'm establishing this waqf for my children, my children's children, and my children's children's children for the next 100 years. So you'll take, say, your retirement, you're very lucky, things went well, and you say, you know what, now I have this like $800,000, you know, and I'm not really using it. When I die, I'm gonna take that money, I'm gonna put it in this trust, in this wealth. And it's gonna stay in a portfolio, a Sharia compliant portfolio. And I'm gonna give it to Azad, a Sharia compliant manager. And they're usually gonna make 6-7%. So that's about 6-7%. We're making, you know, almost like 80 grand, 60-70 grand a year. Then my children are going to receive $60,000 a year for the next 10 generations.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Sister Naima.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Okay. Okay. The walk is a beautiful and wonderful alternative for someone similar to myself, who I have no children, and like my parentals in both situations for paternal and maternal are passed. And however, and my husband and I, we have no children, but I have siblings. But they're not Muslim. And I was curious in regards to if I want to put something like in a perpetual trust type situation, any of my, put everything that we have. If my husband and I, we both pass, when we both pass, it's in a perpetual trust that consistently grows and helps the community. So the walk, I'm assuming that is the kind that I would go about doing. Am I correct?
Yes, we can create that. Again, that is more a custom type of a trust, so you can't do it on the ShariaWiz platform. But we can do it for you in private practice as an attorney, because that's going to be custom. So what we would do is we would create a Sharia compliant family waqf for you, where it'll be for you and your husband. We put the money in the waqf and we say, we're keeping this. When I die, my wife will continue to keep everything and she'll manage it. But when she dies, all of this money is going to be distributed as follows: to my children's children, to my cousins, 10% to this mosque, 30% to this family, 20% to this family. So you can determine that benefit and that distribution on an ongoing basis for the next 100 years.
And the walk would allow the finances to be continuously building if I have it like in investments.
Because you're gonna pick a trustee.
Right.
So when you and your husband pass away, you're gonna say, I want, an institutional trustee. I'm hiring a company to do it, or I'm hiring my accountant. I'm hiring my lawyer. I'm hiring my brother. I'm appointing them to be trustee. And when they die, then there's going to be a successor trustee, and that's going to continue indefinitely.
Okay, yeah, because see, I was just trying to figure out, because of the dynamics, and I saw that you had it where you have non-Muslim family members, and so since I could not click those situations, I'm like, okay, well, if I have a lot of stocks and all this, and all my assets are in this type of trust, and it would allow it to be beneficial for the Islamic community, so that's the customized package that I would
Yes,
have to
that
develop.
means we have to sit down with you, review
Mhm.
your assets, and then put together a design that will effectuate your intentions.
Okay, inshallah. Okay,
You
I
know,
just wanted to
so I
see how
mean,
that worked.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's
okay.
doable. We can share. I'll share my number, and you can call me anytime.
Now, if you happen to have a situation where you don't know if you happen to have a sibling, like say for instance, if you had a Rolling Stone parent or whatever, and you happen to have siblings somewhere, and you know how when people die, people come out of the blue. Is that still a customizable thing, or in because I don't want my estate to go through any probate. I want it to be
Yeah.
set
So in that
aside.
case, you have to do a will.
Mhm.
You should do a trust. You can't do a will because it's going to go
Trust,
through
right?
probate. We would do a trust for you. But in your trust, you're going to decide who the beneficiaries are. If we do the Islamic compliant trust, it's going to say, if it turns out that you had a brother who was Muslim and you didn't know about, that's going to be something that would require the trustee to take that into account and give him an inheritance. But the problem is, if that's your only heir, he would get 100%. But
Right. If they're
yeah,
Muslim.
if they're
If they're
Muslim,
Muslim,
yeah.
right.
But keep in mind, the waqf, we're not following the Islamic law of inheritance, because in the waqf, you're basically transferring your ownership in your lifetime, and you're deciding. That's why many people who want to want to leave their daughters and sons equal shares, they would create a trust saying the benefits, the profit that comes out of this trust goes to my children equally, irrespective of gender. That's fine. That's halal. That's legitimate. Because you transferred this ownership into the waqf in your lifetime. It does not implicate the Islamic inheritance rules.
Mm. Okay. Jazakallah khairan.
No problem.
Wow. That was like mic drop. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Yeah, that's very, very important. Many people don't know
Yeah.
about it. In fact, you could just think about it, that the whole thing is the underlying moral framework of the Quran is about justice, and it's about doing the right thing. So like you have a disabled kid. Let's say she's a disabled daughter. What happens? Now, in the old days, in the fiqh books, there's a chapter called Nafaqat al-Aqarib, which is financial support to relatives. A sister had a claim against her brother for support. She'd go to court. Just like we go to court to get child support, you can go to court to get support from your brother. You can go to court to get support from your father. You can go to court to get support from your uncle. You can go to court to get support from your grandfather, because they're responsible for you. That's why you're receiving a smaller share, because of those reasons. So now in a disabled situation, you can say, you know what? I'm going to earmark, I'm going to take out, a couple $100,000. I'm going to put it in this trust, get it invested. And the benefit goes just to my disabled daughter. That's legitimate. No implications, nothing haram, nothing that violates Islamic law. You have a son who says, I'm dedicating myself just to become a scholar. You could dedicate a larger percentage from the waqf to go to your scholar-driven child, because he needs the help and you want to support that good deed. There's so much flexibility in our tradition.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Karima.
When you're in a different states, do you have different a list of attorneys in those states that can adhere to everything that you're saying as well?
Well, ShariaWiz is not a law firm. It's state specific. You do your own. Every state is covered except Louisiana. So if you do a trust in Maryland, it'll be based on all of the requirements of Maryland trustee law for formalities and signatures and so forth. Now, for lawyers, I have an extensive relationship. I have lawyers all over the country. So you would call us and say, I need help in Maryland. I'll probably find you somebody that I know that could be familiar with this. If it's a state that is really, there are no Muslim lawyers or there are no lawyers that know the Sharia compliant, some people will create their basic will or basic trust on ShariaWiz and give that to the lawyer that is non-Muslim and tell them, here's the framework, I want you to work with me with this. Or I get hired as co-counsel and we work together on the file.
Okay. Shukran. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
This has been so great. I have a technical question just because I'm in technology, so this is really interesting to me. How long did it take? So you have all these algorithms and all these, if-then statements, and how long did it take to actually put this ShariaWiz together?
3 years.
Yeah.
We went through hell back and forth because if you see the algorithm, it's all almost artificial intelligence driven of what we're doing. And the calculator itself, we went through tens of thousands of tests. I had a whole entire team just testing. So we would have like 200 survivorship scenarios and we would run through them, every single school, tens of times each, grab any mistakes, go back. And then after we did all of that, we had 2 Sharia scholars do the testing. We actually had Professor from Zaytuna, Dr. Ali. He teaches Islamic inheritance. We had him do a test it. And then we went to Dr. Abdul Bari Mish'al from Raqaba. It's an auditing company that audits Sharia finance, and they did testing. So yes, it cost a lot of money too. And we're still investing more and more because we want to build this into a platform that's going to last for generations, inshallah.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I can appreciate it. I can see all the effort that's gone into it. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So we're going to open it up for any last questions. What we have done is, if you look into the chat, we do have information, the 800 number and the direct number for Brother Wad. So if you, definitely reach out to him, inshallah.
And he's right here in Jersey.
Yes, I'm local. I'm Jersey.
A Jersey boy.
Yeah, I was born in Inglewood.
All right, okay. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to close out since we don't have any more questions. Go ahead, Farida.
That's correct. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their attendance and tell you to stay tuned for our next event. We probably will have a date shift. That next event is scheduled for Mother's Day, so we may change that a bit. And look out for programming throughout the rest of the year. We thank you, as this has been our 5th event. We want to always plug Study Al-Islam on Sundays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we spend 30 minutes learning about a particular topic. You can go to studyalislam.com. And then what we wanted to do was also let you know, you can see my Hajjs have on t-shirts. We have our Girls Gone Hajj, Saida with the logo. Hanifa has on our Sahur Squad shirt. I have on our original Got Hajj shirt from over 10 years ago. a new one, but revamped. And so I wanted to see if Brother Abed could close out with Surah Al-Asr. And inshallah, I want to say Ramadan Mubarak in advance, because we will not see you all until after Eid.
Right, Brother Abad, you want to close us out?
Okay, I'm not really, all I can say is that I'm not a religious scholar, so I'm not very good with the closings, but I'll do my best. But I could, let me pull, I have so many Qur'ans just in the background, so let me pull a Qur'an so that we can pull the chapter. Just 1 second. So how about we just be more American in the way we approach this? I'm just gonna open, and where it stops, I'm gonna read. So all right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع إذنهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نكحتم المؤمنات ثم طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهم من عدة تعتدونها فمتعوهن وسرحوهن سراحا جميلا. صدق الله العظيم. Out of this randomness, it's the verse saying when you get married, if things don't work out and you do get divorced, do it honorably and be easy, as opposed to being vindictive like what we see most men end up going. So this was meant to be, as you can see, the mercy of our Quran that's directing men. Come on, you're required to be honorable, as opposed to being vindictive. So it's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to host you very soon.
Yes.
I sent my number to Farida, so text me so that we can, and anything I can do to support your work, consider me an ally.
Alhamdulillah.
Yalla, assalamu alaikum. Have a wonderful
Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you everyone for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.